Hello, students. We are on lesson 8.2, surface area of prisms. And we're going to be talking about rectangular and triangular prisms. Now, a prism is a three-dimensional figure. Now, again, my art skills are about as good as a kindergartner, but I will attempt to draw some of these shapes. So if we are talking about a rectangular prism has a rectangular base. That's why it has that name. So, we have this, so we'll just draw the front part right here. So we have a rectangle, right? And then a prism will look like this. And there you can see that it has 6 sides to it. Again, I'm not the best artist on the planet, but you can see that it has rectangular bases. Now, the interesting thing about a rectangular prism is all the sides are rectangles. You can also have that special, this is a rectangular prism, but it is a special one, and it's called a cube. And what makes it a special rectangular prism is all the sides are the same. They're all squares. So that's why it has a special name called a cube. If we have anything else, it's a rectangular prism if it has rectangular bases. Rectangular prism. Now, the other one we're going to talk about today is a triangular prism. And the way that I kind of look at a triangular prism is it kind of looks like a teepee, kind of. And if you wanted to see all the sides, it would look like that. And you can see that a triangular prism doesn't have as many sides as a rectangular prism. So these are the things that we are going to be talking about today. So triangular prisms and rectangular prisms. To get warmed up today, let's go and look, excuse me, at our bell work. So our bell work today actually starts off with a surface area problem, but this surface area is not a rectangular prism and it's not a triangular prism. This is called a square pyramid. And the difference between a pyramid and a prism is the base. A prism has 2 bases. This guy only has 1 base right here. So I want you to imagine we have this 3D shape here, right? This square pyramid. And now we've opened it up and turned it into a net. We can find the area of every one of the shapes that are here and add them together, and it will give us the surface area. Now, there are a few little shortcuts that you can take, and I'm going to just go through this one quickly. So the way that I like to do this is I like to look at how many shapes I have total. I have 5. I have a square, and then I have 4 triangles. Now, we know how to find the area of squares, and we know how to find the area of triangles. This is meaning that we're going to times it by 4 because all of those triangles are the same. So we can use this little shortcut to figure this out. So let's talk about the square first. We are going to be using base times height. Our base is 10. Our height is 10. So we get 100. So our square is 100. Our triangles, we're going to be using base times height divided by 2. Our base is 10. Our height is 8. So 10 times 8 is 80. Divided by 2 is 40. And we have 4 of those, so I'm going to times that by 4. So I get 160 plus the 100, and we get 260 meters, and it is squared because it's area. We are finding, like, we're wrapping this in, it's a present, so that's what we're doing here. Let's move on to number 2 now. Number 2 says a recipe calls for 10 oranges, 6 lemons, and 3 limes. Write the following ratios in simplest form. Okay, so it wants oranges to limes. So we have a 10 to 3 ratio. And we haven't talked a whole lot about ratios yet, but if we looked at it as a fraction, can that simplify? No, they don't have any common terms. So we are done with that one. Let's take a look at lemons to oranges. That is a 6. Lemons to oranges to 10. Okay, and a 2 can go into both of those, so it's 3 to 5. So that turns it into the simplest form. So it's a 3 to 5 ratio, and then limes 3 to orange to lemons is 6, or 3 to 6. It simplifies to 1 to 2. So we need to erase that one and rewrite it as a 1 to 2 ratio. And we'll get into those ratios a little bit more later on. But for now, just remember, we're comparing. That's what we do in ratios, is we're comparing one thing to another. They're very similar to our fractions. And you can, in a lot of ways, treat them like a fraction, but they aren't fractions. And we'll explain that a little bit further on later. So exponent form, we wanted it expanded. 13 to the first power is 13. Our standard form would be what it equals when we multiply, and that's 13. 8 to the 0 power is actually 1, and our standard form would be 1. 5 to the 4th power, 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. Well, 5 times 5 is 5. 5 times 5 is 5, or 25. And we have 5 times 5 again, so that's 25 times 25, and we get 625. All right, good warm-up. Our bell work is now done, and we are going to move on. All right, students, you need to turn to page 67 in your journal. And you'll find this, you know, it's right there. You'll find this sheet there. And this is kind of your notes for finding surface area. Now, we're going to take a look at the right-hand column. The left-hand column we'll talk about in a lesson, the next lesson, because we're talking about prisms today. So a cube is a special type of rectangular prism. Now, let's say, there aren't any measurements on this, but let's say that this is 2. Well, what do we know about a square? Well, all of these sides are 2. And now I could sit here and label one of these cubes, or these sides if I wanted to, but there's not really a need to. What I want to do is I want to find the surface area of this. That means the area of all the different shapes that are associated here. So, how many of these do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So whatever the cube is, I'm going to times by 6. And I can show that by doing this. 6 times whatever the area of the square is. Okay, so let's find the area of one of the squares. And we find that by doing base and height. So base times height. So I'm going to go 6 times base times height. Okay, so my base is 2. My height is 2. Multiply those together, I get 4. And then I have the 6 times 4, which equals 24. And let's say it was inches squared. So a cube is really kind of an easy one, because if you have one of the shapes, you have all of the shapes, and you just have to multiply it by 6. So fairly simple. Now, a rectangular prism is a little bit different. A rectangular prism, we can't use that format. The strategy I like to use for a rectangular prism, there's lots of strategies here. We could find the area of all of these and add them all together, or we can use this little Y strategy, and I'm really kind of fond of this. I'm going to draw this Y here, okay? And I am going to, let's say that we have the numbers. Let's say this edge is 10, this edge is 5, and this edge is, 4. Okay? So I'm going to take all 3 of the different dimensions of this, and I'm going to write them right here at the cube, or on my Y. So 10, 5, 4. Okay, so what is 10 times 5? 50. What is 10 times 4? 40. What is 5 times 4? 20. Okay. What that really did, those numbers are the areas of the 3 different types of rectangles that we have here. So we have, this one would be 20, this one would be 50, and this one would be 40. So that you can see we found 3 of those. Well, there's duplicates. So, you have a 20 here, you have a 50 here, and you have a 40 here. So what we have to do is add these 3 numbers together and times by 2. So 50 plus 40 is 90, plus 20 is 110. And then we have to multiply that by 2, which will give us 220, and let's say this is meters squared. Okay? So that's a strategy that I like to use, and it only works for rectangular prisms. Only. It doesn't work for the other things. So just make sure that you understand that we have to, it only works for rectangular prisms. Now, triangular prisms are a little bit different. Oh boy, my stuff's... I had a little bit of a technical difficulty, and I had to erase my stuff over there. So, moving on, we're going to talk about the triangular prism here. And a triangular prism in itself is probably the one that's the hardest to find the area for, because there's not really a trick. We kind of have to just find the area of all the shapes, and then we have to add them together, or you can use kind of a shortcut and realize that there's 2 of each shape, so I can 2 times each of the shapes that you find and then add them together. That's a little bit of a shortcut. So let's go through this a little bit. I'm going to say that this one's 4 right here. So that one's 4. We'll say that this is 5, and then we'll say our long edge over here, these long ones, are 10. Okay, so from here, we're going to go, okay, what do we have? Well, we have a rectangle that's small, and I'm going to call it rectangle A. So I'm going to come over here and go, okay, I have A. And then I have this rectangle right here, which I'm going to call B. And then I have this big one that I'm going to call C. And then I have a triangle 1 and a triangle 2 that I also have to find. So from here we go, okay, what's 4 times 10? 40. Okay, got it. So we can go over here and go, oh, that one's 40. B, we have 50. Now we kind of have to use some logic here. If I was to fold this up, what edge would it be? Would it be a 4, a 5, or a 10? Well, this edge 5 would match with this guy here. So that's 5, and this is 10. So that would also be a 50. Now our triangles, we have to use our formula, base times height divided by 2. But the good thing about these is they're the same. So we have 4 times 5 divided by 2, which is 10. So this guy's 10, this guy's 10. Okay, so 10 and 10. Okay, so to speed this up, you can use some, 50 and 50 is 100. 10 and 10 is 20. And we have that 40. So I can go 40 plus 20 is 60, plus a 10 is 160. And let's say that this was centimeters. So centimeters squared. Okay, so that is kind of the strategies that we're going to be using today to do, to do prisms. Let's try some of these on your assignment. There isn't really a practice on this assignment. We just move right into your assignment. There's tons, there's 10 questions here, and we're going to do quite a few of them with you so you feel comfortable before you do a few of these on your own. So, number 1 you're going to do later, number 2, number 3. So the ones that are going to be your assignment are this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. Okay? So the rest of them I'm going to do with you. So anything that's got a red circle, I'm not going to do it. The ones without a red circle, I'm going to do it for you. So let's take a look at let's start with the cube. The cube, my copy's kind of blurry here. So this is actually 1/2 of a meter. Okay? So again, this is a cube. And so if we know that this is a cube, let's have you write that down, the name of it. And then we want to find the area. So again, if we have 6 times the area of the square, we've got it. So this one I'm doing because it's got a fraction. So 1/2. If I have 1/2 times 1/2, what do you get when you do that? So 1/2 times 1/2. What do you get? You get 1/4 when you times 1/2 times 1/2. So the area of the square is 1/4. Now, what is 6 times 1/4? Well, we go 6 times 1/4 and we get, well, cross multiply 3, 2, we get 3 halves. And that's an improper fraction, so we go 3 divided by 2, we get 1 and 1/2. Okay? So we get 1 and 1/2 when we multiply all those together. When I'm dealing with fractions, some of the time, I like to I'm going to erase this and show you kind of an alternative. I like to convert it into a decimal. So how do I write 1/2 as a decimal? Well, it's 0.5. So I'm going to go 6 times, and the area of 0.5 times 0.5 is 0.25. That's 1/4. And then it's easier in your calculator to go 6 times 0.5, or 0.25. So 6 times 0.25, and I get 1/2. Decimals are just sometimes easier to look at, and that's meters squared. So that right there you can do. It wouldn't hurt. I mean, if you went, oh, you know what, the area of this is that, and labeled them all, and then added them all together, you could do that also. There's lots of strategies here. You kind of have to decide which one works for you. If you can get the right answer and you can demonstrate how you get the right answer, you're doing the right thing. Okay, so I'm not going to do that one. I am not going to do that one or that one. Let's move down to this guy right here. Oh, well, I'm going to save that one. I'm going to go down to this one right here. Okay, so we are dealing with 6 different shapes. And, I'm going to show you something that maybe will help you. I'm going to go like this. Oh, that didn't work, did it? Let me use my shader tool here. And I'm going to go this shape right here and this shape right here are the same. This shape, this rectangle, and this rectangle are the same. And we have this one and this one that are the same. So we're really dealing with 2 times each of these shapes. So, maybe I want to call this one right here the A shape. And I want to call this one the B shape. And this one the C shape. So I'm going to label them all A, B, and C. Okay? So what we're really looking at here is I have 2 times A plus 2 times B. Now let's write it like this. Plus 2 times C. Okay, so that's really what we're looking at, is to find the surface area. That's what I would do. So the measurements are kind of blurry, so I'm going to help you out with that. This one right here is 3.1. This one is 5.2, and this one is 12. Okay, so if we can find the area of each one of these shapes, then we can find the surface area. And you know what works on this one? Because it's a rectangular prism, if you remember back in your notes, we can use the Y. So we're going to go 3.1, 5.2, and 12. And your calculator will come in handy here. So I'm going to use mine, and I'm going to go 3.1 times 12. And I get 37.2, or 37 and 2/10. Now I'm going to go 3.1 times 5.2. And that gives me 16 and 12/100ths. And now I'm going to go 5.2 times 12. And I get 62 and 4/10. Now, since there are two of those measurements, you know, two of those shapes, what I'm doing is I can add these up and times by 2. So I'm going to go 16 and 12/10 plus 37 and 2/10 plus 62 and 4/10 and hit enter, then times by 2, and I get 231 and 44 inches squared. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That's why we're going to practice this. So we're going to now move up to this guy. Oh, the triangular prism. Wow. Again, I like to sometimes shade these to kind of show that my shapes are the same. I've got this red triangles that are the same. Then I've got these blue. Well, actually, they're all the same. So these are all the same. Okay. So we can find the area of this, these shapes here. One thing it doesn't point out to you on this is that those are equilateral triangles. So the base right there is 3. So yeah, you need to know that. So here we go. Let's figure these out. We are dealing with how many shapes here? We're dealing with 3. We'll call these A's. And then we're going to go plus 2, and we'll call these B's. Okay? So we need to find the area of the A's and the area of the B's. So if we have 4 times, and that's 5.5, I believe. Yep, and I'm going to do a decimal for that. It's just easier to change your fractions to decimals when you're doing math like this. So if it makes you more comfortable to change it to a decimal, do it. If you don't know how to change a fraction into a decimal, use your calculator and go 1 divided by 2, and you'll get 0.5. It works for every single fraction. Okay, so I'm going to get my calculator out and go 4 times 5.5. Oh, 5 is 22. So I am going to go 22 times 3, and I get 66. Okay, so for my A's, this is 66, this is 66, this is 66. Okay, for the B's, we're going to, and now we're going to be using 3 and 3. So 3 times 3, that is 9 divided by 2. So we're going to go 9 divided by 2, we get 4.5. Or 4.5, and we're going to times that by 2, and it gives us 9. So 66 plus 9 is 75 feet squared. Okay. To save time, I'm not going to do every one of these. I've done 3 of them. I've done a cube, I've done a rectangular prism, and I've done a triangular prism. And that's what you're going to run into. And by the way, you can thank your teacher for this. And we talked about this as teachers. We only gave you ones that are whole numbers. So you can see right here, this is all, there's no decimals there. There are no decimals here. And there are no decimals on this guy or on this guy. So those are your 4 problems for your assignment. Guys, as always, if you have questions or concerns, or you feel like you need some more practice in this or some more direction, please talk to your teacher. We're here to help you, and good luck.